This is a video about Avi Yemini and Monica Smit making fake political parties to publicly exploit Victoria's arcane electoral loophole that is the group voting ticket system. Here's some footage of them doing it. You see, they're making all their little videos and registering all their little parties with the VEC with their hand there, trolling their ABC with their hand there. See how they're doing it? What do you think?
Oh, Tom, I didn't come here to watch a mandrill jerk off. I came here to watch you epically troll Avi Yemini like the good old days.
Oh, you didn't like that, did you? Well, whenever I'm forced to watch these creatures, you know, Smit or Yemini, do more stuff for attention and roast chickens, I happen to be reminded of something that Louis C.K. said once. I know, not the most tailored recommendation for this audience. It's not a recommendation. It's just something I remember that C.K. said a long time ago, certainly long before his fall. And to me, it's just always the first line that pops into my head whenever you force me to think about Avi Yemini. It's taken completely out of context because he was actually talking about men on first dates, but I'll let him say it.
Whatever, just like a blind dick in space, just thrusting in infinite directions, hoping to find pay dirt at some place. A blind dick in space, just thrusting in infinite directions, hoping to find pay dirt at some place. A blind dick in space, just thrusting in infinite directions, hoping to find pay dirt at some place.
Yeah, so you don't want to see a mandrill pleasuring itself?
Yeah, you're right. I really don't.
But yet you fully expect me to sit through hours of watching these people pull this fucking face while talking about how epically they're trolling the taxpayer-funded ABC. And I have to do that just to entertain you. Do you see the double standard
Oh,
here?
yeah, fair enough, mate. Well, just fire away with the mandrill clips as you see fit, sir.
Okay, I will, but sparingly.
You know the Sack Dan Andrews party on the ballot? That's sus. It's completely legal to set up a fake party that says Sack Dan Andrews to harvest the votes and give them back to Labor. What do you reckon that tells us about the state we live in?
Corruption at the highest level.
Yeah, so in 2022, Avi wasn't happy about group ticket voting because it was being done to him by Glenn Drury, formerly known as the preference whisperer. Well, I should say it was being done to anyone who used the term Sack Dan Andrews, which was, you know, a lot of people in Avi's corner back then. Glenn had been doing that for years. That was his practice, his hustle. But there was a splashback then because he'd had a conversation with Heston Russell, who at that point was running something called the Angry Victorians Party. And over a Zoom conversation, he named his price and said what he was going to be doing with the Sack Dan Andrews Party. And Heston leaked the chat.
So let me tell you about Sack Dan Andrews. And I'm bringing you into confidence here. It's one of mine. And it was conceived when Aiden. I predicted what would happen with Aiden months ago. So you've got to put something in place, you know, to defend yourself, and then attack. And that's what I did. I looked all over their social media. I could have called it the Pro Jet Trails Party. I could have called it the Port Arthur Conspiracy. I could have called it the Wacko Crazy Lunatics Party, but I didn't. Every other post was Sack Dan Andrews, Sack Dan Andrews, Sack Dan Andrews. We're going to form the Sack Dan Andrews Party. We did. We, me and my allies. That's been formed because if that gets a decent draw, it's going to completely usurp Clive, One Nation, and poor little Aiden. Little bitty Aiden.
Talking about this back in 2022, Monica Smit goes, bombshell video reveals seats for sale scandal. Yikes, it's all on the table now. Vote wisely, my friends. I support Freedom Party, One Nation and Family First. Why? Because they didn't do deals with this thug Glenn. Meanwhile, Avi Yemini was saying,
Completely fine to create and fabricate a party just to harness votes to go against the democratic will of the person voting. But that's a reality So share it far and wide.
Yeah, remember to share it far and wide, guys. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell button for notifications. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Share it far and
So
wide.
what if they said one thing and now they said the opposite?
I'm so tired of trying to prove the hypocrisy of masturbating monkeys, of fucking blind mandrill dicks in space. We all know they're going to say one thing now and say the complete opposite 5 minutes later. Their memory chips recycle almost every 24 hours. All they exist to do is to make you look at them. I can't help myself. I'm too old-fashioned. I have to at least point out when I know that they're on camera being hypocrites. So first of all, in February of this year, Monica Smit launches a party called Save the Environment Party. It's an epic troll. Guys, this one's going to really make heads roll at the taxpayer-funded ABC. Let's see how the lefties like this. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell.
And right on cue, the mainstream Victoria media suddenly has a problem with the strategy.
What we're doing is completely legal, it's completely fine.
So then Avi Yemini did one for the Free Palestine Party, which was when most people started cluing onto the affair.
So imagine for a second that these groups, a big part of the population from the left, right, and the certain immigrant groups, imagine they walked into a polling booth and they saw Free Palestine Party. It's genius. So yeah, I am launching the Free Palestine Party, and we are going to redistribute. We're going to flow our preferences on to parties that want to free Palestine from Hamas.
The epic trolling continued with an effort to register the Muslim Votes Matter party.
And ladies and gentlemen, I've just received word that another party, Muslim Votes Matter, is now looking for members at muslimvotesvic.com or by scanning this QR code. Now, the person behind this party told me that the new party was inspired by the Free Palestine idea.
Actually, quick note about that one while we're on the subject of who set up which party. They're all Monica Smith's domains. These are the domains hosted on a certain server: Reignite Democracy Australia, Save the Environment Party, Free Palestine Party Victoria. Shout out to Vexatious Litigant for this later reverse IP search. I saw this on their page. Also Muslim Votes Vic. Momons is by now scraping the last bits out of the attention jar. This is her last one she's done.
A new party has been created in Victoria and it's absolutely genius. You're going to love it. Basically, it is designed to harvest the informal votes. That's correct. So at least 6 to 8% and maybe even up to 10% of voters go to that booth not caring who they vote for, not knowing anything about politics, not even knowing how to vote. So they go there and they draw a picture or they scribble or they just tick any box. We have now created a box specifically for those people. When they go to the ballot box in November in Victoria, they will see a box, and under that, there will be a party that is called I'm Voting to Avoid the Fine. This may seem strange to you, but actually, it's very genius.
Now, if you are aiming to be the villain in an episode of Scooby-Doo, if you're scheming towards dastardly ends, just say that. What makes my skin crawl is when they try to cobble together hasty justifications in the realm of the ethical or the principled or the political for this shit. Listen to this.
Firstly, we don't agree with mandatory voting. People who don't care or understand politics shouldn't be forced to vote. Democracy shouldn't be forced, in our opinion. Also, it means that uneducated voters are making bad decisions. They're not doing their research. They're just turning up the day and voting for whoever. So we have found a way to actually ensure that their once wasted votes are actually given power. Let's say this party gets 2 or 3% of the vote. Well, guess who this party is going to preference? One Nation.
Epic! But you see, you've said it's all above board, though. These people might be doing a busted thing, you might say, but it's ultimately because there's a busted system. The only difference between what these guys are doing now and what Glenn Drury was doing before was that he was doing it out of the public spotlight to a degree, and he was doing it for money. He was also doing it with a bit more strategy. These guys are doing it for attention in the public spotlight. Not to say that there isn't an express political goal potentially in mind. It isn't all just epic trolling and attention economics. It's all fundamentally a push for one nation. You can see here, buffeted by the winds of good polling recently for One Nation, Monica's game playing is all intended to direct more votes to One Nation, because she reckons that if group ticket voting was abolished, One Nation are now so popular that they'd be getting heaps of upper house seats anyway. I suppose it's a game of wait and see as to how much these recent prophecies around the rise of One Nation pan out to be true or not, so let's do that. But look, it is true that both Avi and Monica admit, even though they're playing the game, that this is a busted system.
This is a stupid system. It should be abolished. And there have been calls to the Labor Party of Victoria to abolish this system for the last decade, and they refuse to do so, which makes me think it must obviously benefit them in some way.
Leaning into leftist worldview where it can take voters from there and redistribute their votes back to conservative parties. It was taking a leaf out of the leftist playbook, what Labor has done for many years, which is why they've retained power, or part of why they've retained power for so long in Victoria.
Of course, anyone with a scary political awareness or understanding of this issue will know that it's not a Labor trick. It isn't how Labor have remained in power in Victoria for so long. Glenn Drury's not a Labor man. But these people do this shit in their sleep. Everything that they do that's underhanded, they have to retcon by blaming as somehow being the fault of the left. Their only moral compass is pointing at the other guy and going, "Who done it first?" It is true that the push to get rid of the group ticket voting system has been there for some time. It's built momentum in the parliamentary space with not one but two Electoral Matters Committee reports, both recommending that group ticket voting be abolished. The last report released, as you can see, December 2025, the committee again said that group voting tickets have had their day, they need to be abolished. Victoria is the last jurisdiction in Australia to still use them. Got to get rid of them. They recommended that group voting tickets be abolished before the 2026 election. And they quoted people from an entire political spectrum of parties: Labor, Libs, Nationals, Greens, Family First, etc., all supporting in one form or another the abolition of group voting tickets. Why did Labor drag their feet on this? Historically, couldn't possibly say. But I do know that the recent findings of the Electoral Matters Committee were responded to by the VEC. They basically said this might jeopardise the integrity of the election process itself if we implement changes so close to the election without having sufficient time for testing. For the most part, therefore, I'd have to say I'm ambivalent about what these maggots are doing. You know? They're broken people manipulating a broken system, using exploits that have existed for years and that everyone was told for many years should have already been patched up. But again, I'm old-fashioned at heart, so I can't help but strive to keep it a buck when it comes to the motivation of these people. Because I get they all release these videos twirling their mustaches and twiddling their fingers together like arch-villains coming up with a plan to defeat their rivals, using the weapons they crafted against them. But what I can't handle is the notion of Monica Smit saying, "We're finally going from passion to strategy." That's a bridge too far for me.
I'm just glad that we're finally going from passion to strategy, and I think that that is really exciting. And one more thing I will say is
passion for this fucking baboon used to look like not signing up to fairly conventional bail conditions so that her team could immediately set up a fundraiser that raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for her, purporting to get her released from her self-imposed confinement. That's what she was like back when she was passionate. Passion for Avi Yemini used to look like setting up a fundraiser for himself the day before he knew he was going to get dragged down the road by VicPol in a cop car so that he could record a video from inside the cop car pretending he was imprisoned so that he could then release the fundraiser and milk his idiot followers for as much money as possible. That was passionate old Avi Yemini before the cynical strategy crept in. It is passion. It's just not passion for what Monica was implying. She was implying passion for the political process, for a certain moral or political compass, advancing a particular political goal. That's never been the case. What's the motivation that lies at the heart of their passion and strategy? Well, biologists say that it's because the crowds provide constant stimulation, and that it triggers an excitement and a kind of an arousal. And it's also an innate physiological response to sometimes the boredom and the stress of captivity. And people like Yemini, of course, are captive to the need to continue to create media spectacles for subscriber money. So, Yemini, it doesn't really matter if this works or not. The point is only that it got heads rolling at the taxpayer-funded lefty ABC. And so idiots continue to give him money to make light entertainment out of the political space, which gives him dinner, gives him big roast chickens. Avi Yemini likes to eat, he needs to feed his family. He's exactly the same as this mandrill who, after pleasuring himself in front of a crowd, eats his own fluid. This is basically Yemini footage. A couple of blind dicks in space trying to find pay dirt. And these days, they so often do, don't they, guys? Opportunists posing as populists. Not like left-wing populist everymen like me, willing to tap into the popular consciousness and reach people with my messaging by making videos heavily featuring mandrills jerking off. If you enjoy that kind of thing, patreon.com/Tom Tanuki.